The first question is, what is mindfulness? What is it and what isn't it? What it is and what it isn't. Because especially as it has become so widespread and popular in our culture and spreading out in so many different ways, 40 years ago, we definitely should have copyrighted the word. Because, but there's also a lot of misunderstanding of what mindfulness actually is. So if somebody comes up and asks me, or asks you, well, what exactly is mindfulness? Maybe the first response, the first intuitive response, especially in this crowd, might be, well, be here now. Be in the present moment, live in the present moment, rather than lost in past, lost in future. So that's a beginning. It's a beginning of understanding the domain, the power of mindfulness. But as we explore it further, we begin to see that there are many different ways of being here now. And some of those ways involve mindfulness, and some do not. It's possible to be here now completely unmindful. So as my favorite example of that, I presume most of you are familiar with black labs, the dogs. Fun. They are fun dogs. They're my main meta object. I just have to think of it. So these black labs, they're living in the present. As far as we can tell, they are totally engaged and interactive with their various sense experience. And they're running around having fun and playing, and they're being here now. Now, this may be my human prejudice, but when I look, they just don't seem to be mindful. That's not the word that comes when I'm watching them do their fun thing. So they're living in the present, but they don't appear to be mindful. So mindful must mean something else in addition to being present. Right? So it's like being present is necessary but not sufficient. There has to be some other quality to really make it mindful. So then when we look, okay, these black labs don't seem to be mindful. What's missing? When we practice, in ourselves, we begin to see that part of mindfulness is not just being present in the way a black lab might be, but actually there's a certain observing power of the mind, where, I'm not sure this will express it exactly, but it's almost as if we know that we're knowing, rather than just being totally identified in the experience. So I call that the observing power of the mind. So that's another dimension that we need to add to being in the present. That begins to flesh out a little bit some of the unique qualities of mindfulness. So we're observing, and we kind of know we're observed. So you're feeling the breath, and you're observing the breath, or a sensation. And there's a certain awareness that you are observing it. Maybe you could call it metacognition, M-E-T-A. But when we look more carefully even at that, we see, that may not be sufficient either. Because we can be in the present, we can be here now, we can add to that observing power of mind so we really know what we're connecting with. But as I mentioned the other morning, we can be observing experience, whether internal or external, through all kinds of filters. I mentioned the difference between recognition and mindfulness. We can recognize what's present, a thought, a sensation, a sound, another person, a situation. We can recognize, we can be observing, but how are we observing? Are we observing through the filter of our conditioned desire or wanting? So we're looking at something filtered by a certain kind of greed. Or are we observing something, and I talked about this with regard to fear, but it could be almost any unpleasant situation, pain in the body, discomfort in the body, a difficult situation, a difficult person. Are we present and observing, but is it through the filter of aversion, of dislike? If that filter is there, then again, it's not mindfulness. We're present, we're observing, we're recognizing what it is, but it's still not mindfulness. So now we're beginning to hone in on the very special quality that made it worth writing 400 pages. Because mindfulness means it's this special quality of being in the present and observing and recognizing. And that special quality of mindfulness is that we're doing all this, at least temporarily, freed from the old habit patterns of wanting and pushing away, of desire and aversion. Right? So as I said, with the fear for so long, I had been thinking I was being mindful, but it wasn't, because I was observing it so that it would go away. There was that in order to mind. We can see that a lot with physical pain in the body. Very common. We're sitting very often in meditation, we feel discomfort. That's part of it. It's part of having a body. There's no one who experiences only pleasant sensations in this human realm. Our life is this mix. But how are we relating to it? The conditioned response, and it goes so deep. I mean, it goes really deep. You go up to anybody on the street. Do you like pleasant? Yeah. Do you want unpleasant? No. This is our condition. We like what's pleasant and we don't like what's unpleasant. But that conditioning, that's a very deep conditioning within us, within all of us. That's what keeps us imprisoned. And so the challenge and the power of mindfulness is that it gives us an opportunity to decondition those responses, to see that it's totally possible and freeing to experience the pleasant, like being here. Almost everything is so pleasant here, and it's lovely. But can we experience the pleasant without the tendency of holding, of grasping, of even wanting it to continue? And could we experience whatever unpleasant may come up without pushing away? It's okay to feel unpleasant. This is a hard one to get, because most of us do not believe it. We think it's not okay to feel the unpleasant. But that's a big problem, because a good part of our lives will present us with unpleasant situations. That's just going to be part of living. If we have cut ourselves off, it's okay to feel pleasant, but it's not okay to feel unpleasant, how are we going to be living our lives? Extremely defensively. It's as if we're going to create a little comfort zone and try to protect that comfort zone, and nothing unpleasant comes in. It's completely futile and stressful, and it's not an easeful way to live. So mindfulness, and this is the great gift of mindfulness towards ease of life, of happiness of life, because mindfulness actually lets us settle back, being in the present, observing power of mind, but without that conditioned filter of wanting and not wanting, of desire and aversion. We're like an open window. The mindfulness just creates that open space in which all phenomena arise, sometimes pleasant, sometimes unpleasant, but we stay in that openness. So this is possible. We can actually experience this. And this is perhaps the most important message, it's a practice. We can hear these words, and many of the beautiful words that have been expressed all week about generosity and about love and all of it. It takes practice. And you each may find your own particular practice that resonates with you, but it doesn't just happen by itself. We're all the product of our conditioning, and our conditioning varies a lot. It's mindfulness which actually shows us, it reveals us the patterns of our conditioning and the possibility of letting go of those tendencies that just entangle us in suffering. And then working with the possibility of, no, I can settle back, this pain is okay, I can feel it. This difficult emotion, fear, anger, jealousy, whatever it is, if we're not caught up in the story of it, then we can settle back simply into being mindful of the energy of the emotion, the way it manifests in our body, our heart, our mind. We're just there with that experience, without pushing it away, without holding on, without identifying with it. And then all these difficult experiences also simply become part of the passing show. And our hearts, our minds, relax. They're at greater ease. Okay, so that's question number one. What is mindfulness and what isn't it? So, everybody get an A on this? Okay, let's go to question B. This is actually just pass-fail. So. Question B, very important question, because there's often a big gap between question one and question two as people are entering into the practice. So the first question is just, what is mindfulness? And what looks like it but isn't. The second question is, what do we learn from being mindful? So the goal of the practice is not mindfulness per se. Mindfulness and many of the other methodologies, they are a methodology for deepening understanding. And so the real question is, okay, we practice being mindful and we have our minds a little more centered with what's arising and we're there, but then what are we learning? What's the wisdom that comes from being mindful? So this is why I suggested at the beginning of the retreat, the sitting, one transforming wisdom aspect of the practice, and it's not hard to see, although it's hard to sustain seeing it, is that whatever arises in our experience, anything, in our bodies, in our minds, emotions, thoughts, feelings, internal, external, whatever arises will also pass away. And that line, just that one line, is found in a lot of the Buddhist discourses, and it's a line that when people hear, some number of people get enlightened just hearing that line. So I'm going to repeat it. It's like you never know. But take it in. So don't just... The transformative power is not this understanding as an intellectual understanding. The transformative depth, the depth of that transformation that can take place happens when we drop that line into the core of our being and understanding. So it's not kind of a fluffy little aphorism up here. Whatever has the nature to arise, which is everything. That's an important point. Whatever has the nature to arise in our experience will also pass away. And so the refinement of this perception of change is one of the things that we learn from being mindful. When we're mindful in the moment, moment after moment, we're seeing that thoughts come and go, and sensations and sounds and emotions and people, everything is coming and going, arising and passing. Okay, so then you might ask, so what? Because on an intellectual level, this just seems completely obvious. You go up to anybody in the street and you say, do things change? Oh yeah, everything changes. So it's not an esoteric truth. It's something on the conceptual, intellectual level we all know very well. However, there's often a big gap between what we know conceptually and how we're living our lives. And the transformative power of practicing mindfulness as a methodology for seeing the momentary change, it's only when we are living that experience, moment to moment, that's what effects the liberating quality of that wisdom. And this notion of liberation, although different traditions may use different language to describe it, but in my understanding of at least many of the different spiritual traditions that I've come into contact with, there is one essence of the liberated mind, the liberated heart. And it's often expressed in a phrase that's found in a lot of Buddhist texts, but in other traditions as well. Liberation through non-clinging. So it's non-clinging, non-grasping, the non-grasping mind, which is actually the experience of the mind that's free. So it doesn't mean not experiencing things, it has to do with how we're relating to what's being experienced. Are we relating with grasping, with clinging, with wanting, with desire? Or are we settled back into the mindfulness of this flow of changes where we simply become the flow? And we're not trying to dam the flow up with our various habitual responses. Liberation through non-clinging. So that might sound a little abstract, perhaps, or maybe some of you actually have touched that experience, but there's a very easy feedback for us in our lives and in our meditation practice that acts as a mindfulness spell to remind us that we are caught up in some way. Because it's very easy as we go through life. Here there's a lot of support and a lot of reminders of how to settle back into the ease of not holding on. But when we go back into the world, there's so many, forces at work and responsibilities, and we get so caught up in our worldly lives, it's very difficult to remember the simplicity of all this, because we're so caught up in the events. But one feedback that if we set the intention to pay attention to will be a tremendous help in actualizing everything that's being learned here out in the world. And that is to pay attention, set the intention to pay attention to times when you feel like you're struggling. That can happen in meditation very often. People are sitting, and for whatever reason, it's not flowing, it's not easeful. The mind is struggling in some way. Or it could be some situation in life, and we're in some kind of struggle. Well, here's a little teaching that I found really helpful. And I just noticed it over and over again in my own practice. And that is that struggle means just one thing. I generally don't like to make absolute statements. So let me say, struggle mostly means one thing. Just give me a back door here. Basically, what struggle means is that something is going on in our bodies, in our minds, in internal, external, in our meditation, in our worldly life. When we feel this sense of inner struggle, it simply means that something is going on, something has arisen that we are not accepting. Because if we were accepting it, we wouldn't be struggling. So struggle then, instead of being a problem, actually becomes this amazing feedback. It's like waking us up. So I'll just give you a few examples, and this comes out of meditation practice, but again, it can be applied just to our lives. You're sitting and you find yourself in some kind of struggle. You might then ask the question, what's my experience that I'm not accepting right now? And it might be some discomfort in the body. You're trying to stay with the breath, just in, out, but there's some pain or discomfort. If we're not open, if we don't become mindful of that discomfort and accepting of it, it's going to always be pulling. We're trying to be with the breath, and the discomfort is pulling us. That's the struggle. As soon as we see that, settle in, oh, this pain, this discomfort, it's okay. Just let me feel it. The struggle is gone. Maybe you're sitting and you're having a lot of thoughts. You're trying to be with the body, with the breath, but the mind is just running wild. Tons of thoughts going through. You're in a struggle. Why can't I sit properly? Struggle is the feedback. It's saying something is going on you're not accepting. In this case, it's not accepting the fact that there are a lot of thoughts. Why make a problem of it? Just sit back. Lots of thoughts happening. And the mind just comes back to a sense of ease. That experience will pass just like all others. Or maybe there's some, unpleasant mood that you may not even be aware of, but it's just coloring everything, coloring your experience. Maybe you just feel down or heavy. If it's a sense of struggle, open up. What am I not accepting? Oh, feeling down. Okay, this is okay too. This is another passing experience. You're getting this very simple thing, struggle, an indication that something is not being accepted, and it becomes an invitation then to settle back, open up, and just explore, okay, what is it that's going on that I'm not open to? And in this way, our practice both develops a lot of stability, a lot of maturity. We begin to really expand the possibilities of what we're able to be with in a mindful way. It's as if our comfort zone gets larger and larger and larger. Come to a place of struggle. Okay, what's going on? Oh, can I accept this? Shh. the zone just got a little bigger. We got to another edge. Shh, okay, can I open here? Can I relax here? And my vision of the Buddha and Maharaji and great enlightened beings would be a mind without boundaries. Everything is acceptable. A mind without boundaries is a mind without fear. And then it's just phenomena. Empty phenomena rolling on. Okay, so this is some of what we learn from being mindful. Right? So you're clear about what mindfulness is and what it isn't. It's not just being in the present, it's being present in a certain way. Observing power, but observing without the filter of desire and aversion. So it's like observing as if through an open window. Right? There's just space. And then in that mindfulness, we learn that everything is changing. And then one more little freeing aspect of seeing the truth of change. What happens when you hold on, when you're trying to hold on to something which in its nature changes? So you're holding on tight, but in its nature is changing. Somebody once described it as rope burn. The rope is being pulled through. The tighter we try to hold on, the more rope burn we're going to get. The more we hold on to that which in its nature changes, we suffer. If you happen to live in the Northeast and you're attached to being on Maui, it's going to be a difficult trip home. But if you're mindful of the pleasantness of being in Maui, and everything, sometimes I go around, I'm just saying to myself, oh, pleasant, pleasant, pleasant. The water, the sun, the beach, it's just all so pleasant there. And then I think of 15 degrees in New England. But if I'm attached to things staying a certain way, it's going to be painful going back. If I'm not attached, if it's just pleasant now, go through its own changes, unpleasant icy winds, that's okay too. And the mind really stays free. So this is the transformative wisdom of experiencing, not intellectually, experiencing moment to moment, the truth that everything is changing moment to moment. Because that's what deconditions the grasping. When we see it, again, not just think it, when we are actually experiencing, perceiving the continual flow, that's what deconditions that deeply rooted tendency to grasp. And we begin to become like that wise monkey who, when holding on in that monkey trap I mentioned, learns to open its hand, slip out, and be free. Okay. So that's the second question. First, what is mindfulness and what isn't? So we really have a clear understanding of what we're practicing. Then what we learn from being mindful, that everything is a process of constant change, and that the more we hold on to that which changes, the more we suffer. It's so obvious, but we totally forget it, in our lives.